Most heartfelt greetings and salutations, theydies and gentlethems. I eagerly welcome you to Sturgeon's most premier station, Dusklight Radio, hosted by yours truly, the incorporeal, infinitesimal, truly magnificent, flamboyant Everett J. Blackwell. Perhaps you know of us. We were known for our world-famous publishing house, the Blackwell Epitaph. It was during the Victorian age and people loved the morbidity, and then we branched out into journalism and print. They especially loved it when we'd print things that hadn't yet come to pass. See, the Epitaph was a unique way to report on both the human and nightmare ongoings. Most folks back then were entirely ignorant to that section of the community and the ways in which they died. A lot of folks just had this assumption that their inner bodies split the skin when nobody was looking, and then pranced off into the obsidian woods from which no mortal soul returns. We felt it prudent to open folks up to new opportunities of life. We also produced fun puzzle games and ciphers, usually sent in by nice, well-meaning folks who elected to remain mysterious. One gentleman using the pseudonym Chet Bruce said he'd been hunting down ne'er-do-wells for as long as he could remember and wouldn't stop until the strange Cadillac ciphers were resolved. For 3 years, he ran roughshod on our little community, and we kept on publishing them, hoping someone would figure it out. Well, someone did. A senior nightmare biology student by the name of Thyla McNamara figured it out over her morning eggs and toast. She said the council of spiders she houses told her the secrets, and within 24 hours, Chet Bruce was caught. No more monstrosities on the streets. Well, at least the ones perpetuated by him. We foreclosed the Epitaph as the Sturgeon Nexus gained traction with its more off-the-wall publications. They talked freely about the more underground dealings of Sturgeon's undesirables, and they feared no retribution. They also had a far more diverse staffing group by the turn of the century, and the Epitaph went the way of the sandpit chameleon, tail up and rotten to the core. Still, there's always blogs. Maybe we can revive it in one manner or another, Could call it the Blackwell Resurrection. If you're just joining us, first of all, welcome and do not skip. I promise each of these are unique in their own way. We don't command legions of tiny insects to crawl into your ears and whisper words of encouragement for nothing, you know. Anyway, I'm Dusklight's main and most fabulous half-dead host. My job at this fine radio station is to bring you some of the most twisted, interesting, and downright bizarre tales that I and my wonderful many-legged runners collect from the far corners of Sturgeon and beyond. Some of them will make you laugh, some will make you cry, and some will force you to take up a job working for the farmers. We all know about the Sturgeon Farmers Collective, and soon, very soon, you will too. Someone over at the Sturgeon Nexus did an expose on them recently, and it weren't pretty. The Farmers Collective is a shadowy cabal of individuals who never take their hoods off, appear at the doors of the simple villages in Mantis Bay, and offer strange meat in exchange for their next harvest, and refuse to divulge just what it is they're putting in the ground to help engorge the crops, or to tell the farmers what lays in the pods that they haul away come spring. You don't want to work for the farmers, listener, but the story implores that you do so. It warns that if you do not, someone else you love dearly will have to do, and, well, they're not as qualified or as alert as you, and you wouldn't want them to succumb to the influence of the farmers now, would you? Of course not, or you'd never see their smile again once the eponymous hood is placed during graduation. Your role with the farmers is tenuous at best. You are an intern that they don't fully trust, but you will survey all the food coming in and ensure it is primed and ready for distribution. You want to know why it smells of formaldehyde and stale earth, but you do not get an answer. The story tells you to stay late one night, and you hear some key words during a company meeting: cultivate, harvest, subjugate, control, and hunger. You don't know why these words upset you. They are, of course, normal buzz phrases for the Farmers Collective, but the way they groan as they say them sets your teeth chattering. Since you went home, all you see when you look at the big food companies is wrong. You know what each one contains, and you are unable to tell anyone. Because how would they believe you? How could they believe you? Aside from us at this station, of course. You now eat unmarked food and stare out of your one uncovered window. hoping the men from the Farmers Collective will stop swaying in the wind on your front yard. They know you have to come out eventually, listener. You'll run out of food eventually. Hunger will drive you to them. Or to do terrible things. Terrible, hunger-induced things. The Sturgeon Farmers Collective is counting on it. It's time to introduce our next story for this evening. It's entitled, There is a Person at Your Front Door, which, if you're an anxiety-riddled person like me, is scary in itself. And it's another entry from our head custodian, TJ Lee, who wants you all to know that this is another edition in the Sturgeon universe, though he's not sure it matters too much for enjoyment. I haven't seen much of TJ in the past week or so, you know. He started stockpiling his purple crayons and dish rags in his commune, a little janitor's closet he started building and expanding within. I went to check on him last weekend and found him hunched over, making a purple crayon wife and child and talking to him. Said Mr. Blackwell would find out eventually and TJ would be sent to a new HR person, that he didn't know what would happen if that occurred. I tried prompting him, but he hissed at me and said something that made my nose bleed. As I backed away and shut the door, I could have sworn the crayon wife turned her head to look at me. You can find more about TJ over at his subreddit r/TJ Lee, his Twitter @TJ Lee, and of course, his historical writers podcast, The Writer's Mythos, which debuts its next episode on Wednesday. He scribbled the title all over the walls of my office so I don't forget it. Either that or it's a bit of a veiled threat. Are you afraid of the dark? When I turn off the lights, some of the letters are in the usual purple. Others are in a deep, glowing red that makes my ears ring if I look at it too long. Special thanks must be given first to Mandy Mo for rendering yours truly in the beauteous image you see when you look at our page. Next, Dusklight bows to the altar of Trevor Henderson, the man behind Siren Head, for allowing Dusklight to use some of the images he's captured of various abominations. Our cast today features our chaotic, evil purple crayon eater TJ Lee. All hail his janitorial wisdom. And of course, lest we forget, some of the music you hear in our videos is provided by the Dark Somnium with gracious thanks. With that, the sun has set and dusk has crawled into the studio once more. Whether you're working, prepping to sleep, or evading the formless void that will one day consume us all, Blackwell is here to soothe your ears and captivate your soul. Now, close your eyes and take a deep breath. The scene has been set and the light is on. It's time to walk towards it. Seriously? Again? I grimaced as the phone rumbled, turning over in my bed to look at the sleep cycle clock as I pulled my phone closer to my face. 3:02 a.m. Cloudy outside. No breeze. Fucking Christ. I've barely slept. I live in a suburbia part of the town. We usually get drunken asshats who forget to look for common identifiers of their homes and just ring their doorbells expecting a roommate, spouse, or family member to let them in. Sometimes it's a prank spurred on by bored and or drunk teenagers during the spring break period. And occasionally, just every now and then, it's something else. My condo has a large set of steps going up to the property. Wooden decking with various bits of furniture including a hammock and some ornamental birds adorning it. My prized blue flamingo, Barry, sits in just the view of the doorbell camera. A trusty guard if there ever was one. The reason I got the damn camera installed was because of Barry, funnily enough. I don't know if it's wildlife or just some asshole, but someone pulled him from his perch and threw him into the bushes in my yard, scratching at his paint and going for the eyes. I figured it may have been someone looking to case the area and trial a scene to see if I reacted, but I'm a heavy sleeper most nights, so the camera was a good decision. Keeping one eye closed so I could go back to sleep after inspecting the camera, I flipped it open to the app. I have one of those Nest Hello cameras, and they got some crazy field of vision and work well in the daylight. Even if the nighttime view on mine is a little grainy at times, some weird screen tearing happens every now and then when I look at the footage, I have no idea why. I look at the screen and sure enough, nothing's out of place. The furniture is still there, hammock is swinging, and Barry is staring dutifully at the door. I'm about to close the app and curse some weird glitch for waking me, when it hits me and my sleepy eye snaps open as I turn over to look clearly. There is no breeze out tonight. Then why is my hammock swinging? Furthermore, Barry is positioned to look out at the yard. I do it as partly an aesthetic thing, and symbolically, he's the guard of the house. So why is he looking at the camera? It unsettles me. Even if he is just an inanimate object, I feel sympathy towards him as much as I do fear in this moment. This isn't special, of course. I pack bonded with my Roomba when I found out it gets scared during thunderstorms. But the point remains that Barry could not move himself. So who did? I close the app and take a moment to steady my nerves. I'd always been a nervous wreck at the best of times, and I didn't spend money on therapy to get past trauma for nothing. I grabbed my stuffed animal and rocked myself carefully until I could slow my breathing.
There is a person at your front door.
Fuck. No. No. I ball my hands into fists and smack my temples an even number of times in frustration before I hold them down and, tears in my eyes, breathe once more. I remind myself I'm in control and take another tentative look at the app, feeling my skin crawl as it loads for an incessant amount of time, letting my mind wander once more. The camera looks out into my driveway and at the adjacent road. Directly opposite is the McPherson house, and to the right of them is a small clearing into the woods surrounding our suburb. It's vast and thick. God knows why anyone would go in there. You could get lost for days, possibly permanently if you're like me and have a minimal sense of direction. I've spent so many nights afraid I'd wake up in there one day and struggle to get home, succumbing to the elements or encountering something in there that saw me as an easy meal. So, when the app loads and I see something in the clearing, a long neck extending from a short body and pulling its way towards me, I don't even need to register it to have a knee-jerk reaction of throwing my phone to the floor and clenching my teeth. Enough is enough. I'm just being irrational, stupid, overthinking it just like everyone told me before. There wouldn't have even been such a scene if I just... No, I'm not doing this, I tell myself, soft moonlight ebbing in from the bedroom window, situated on the opposite side of the condo. I'm not doing this. I look at the app, still open, and stare hard at the shape on the screen, expecting a creature or a horrifying specter to appear. Nothing. The road is quiet and there's nothing in the clearing. But Barry is still staring at me, and it's unsettling me more than I care to admit. I don't like things out of their place or positioned wrong. It just sets my teeth on edge, and I feel like pulling every follicle of hair off my body when I can't alter it. It's fucking torture. I put on some clothes and saunter downstairs, fiddling with the triple lock on my door and getting to the latch when I hear something that gives me pause. An ever so slight creak on the second step leading up to my condo. It's an older bit of wood that I intentionally left weaker. I'd love to say it was part of my master plan to catch a thief, but I just enjoyed the sound and, as I said, I hate moving set things. Now, however, that sound was sending a chill down my spine, and a horrible thought crept into my head. What if they moved it intentionally? I stepped back and carefully slid the locks back into place, watching my movements as I found a safe place to sit down in my living room, hoping not to make a sound. I waited a good 15 minutes in absolute silence, ears trained to the outside before I felt safe to move upstairs, my mind thinking back to the incident that set all of this off. How, over a decade ago, someone started showing up in my workplace and telling me that I was the most special person they'd ever met, that I had such special genes, and they needed to know everything about me. They followed me incessantly wherever I went, knew all of my social media accounts, even the private ones, and made fresh alts the same hour I'd find to block the last ones, constantly spewing weird prophetic shit about how I'd be the most revered member of their club. I remember the night they broke into my parents' house, waking up to them standing over me in that weird fucking outfit, smile plastered over their wrinkled and hairy face. I remember wondering why they were smiling as they drew a serrated knife across my thigh and pulled the blood into a small vial before dashing for the door as they screamed the house down. The guy was a well-known nutjob from the homeless community who preached about some church of the Dusk Walker, that he knew the all-seeing prophet, and the police had many run-ins with him, so they found him quick enough. He was sent to prison, and that was the end of it. For him, at least. It took years of therapy and a new job in an entirely new city to placate me. And even now I struggle. All the defenses in the world can't seem to stop someone when they're obsessed. Walking back up the stairs, punching the information in to call the authorities, my phone notifies me once more.
There is a person at your front door.
With shaking hands, I open the app and have to put my hand over my mouth to muffle the screams. It's him. He's older and malnourished, but it's absolutely him. Standing on the top of the stairs and leering at me, bent over, a neck cocked to the side. But it's his neck. His fucking neck is too long. It's stretched out and there's veins all over it as it extends and pushes his head closer. Deadened eyes and a wide smile greet the camera as it gets closer. What do I do? What the fuck do I do? I run upstairs and pull the blankets over my head, phone still in hand, and shakily try to dial 911. But I have no idea what they'll even do if I tell them what I've seen. The phone rings out for what feels like forever when I hear a thumping sound against my window. The unfettered moonlight casting a shadow on my blankets that scars my mind and shocks me into silence. His head is smacking against the window pane, either in an attempt to get my attention or, more likely, to get inside. Hands pull at the hairs on my head and I dig my face into my knees, begging for it all to stop with every ounce of willpower I can muster. I rock there back and forth for an age, just repeating the same thing over and over, almost in tandem with his bumps. Stop it. Go away. You're not welcome. It takes some time, but the bumping inexplicably stops and I hear a snapping sound, followed by a low, desperate groan. I feel tears run down my face and blood from where I'd bitten my lip as I take in the intoxication of a silent night.
There is a person at your front door.
Fuck. This is designed to break me. Shaking hands, open the app, and for the first time, I can't contain my scream. It's an eye. A single, bloodied eye with full dilation jammed up against the camera. I could see something writhing in the darkness, twisting and dancing, beckoning to me even as I shriek so loud the lights begin to come on in the McPherson house. Something in the blackness is calling to me, and a part of me wants to go to it. Every logical part of me feels unmitigated fear. My legs are shaking, my heart is pounding so fast that I feel dizzy as I stand, and I can barely hear anything in my ears. Yet, I still walk to the door, to whatever is calling me. Eyes transfixed on the app as the strange shape beckons me. My hand slips off the first lock. The shape is no clearer, yet I feel a familiarity within it. The contours in the eye almost inviting. The second lock clicks and releases, and a rumble is audible in my ears. I feel comfort and warmth. I pull the chain on the latch and start to open the door to my calling as the elder McPherson bellows at the top of his voice. Hey! Who the fuck are you? Get away from there! You got 3 seconds! And a shot rings out that snaps me into consciousness, hands still on the latch but pulling open the door as a blackened hand slips back through the gap. A horrific howling as it darts off of the tree line. More shots ringing out as I swing open the door, still on instinct. The second scream sounds familiar, and a hot, acidic substance pours down my shirt as my eyes blur and I fall to the ground. Mr. McPherson's wife coming to my aid. It's mine. It's my scream. My vomit. What was left on the doorbell was an intact eye, stalk and everything, pushed up against the camera with some tape. Black blood pooling on the ground, on the hammock, and on Barry. A note has been stamped next to it, something that would force me to move once again and deny any strangeness that occurred that night. Maybe Sturgeon isn't the best town for me after all. I don't know what they see in me, but that question is more than enough to have me prepping to move once again. Do you see what I see? You see, this is why I practically live at the radio station, bedroom and all. Nobody to bother me on a lone radio tower. I got a trusty group of runners to protect me in the event of someone uninvited coming along, and a healthy stock of acidic products if they don't get the hint the first time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of our other transmissions. We're adding them regularly, and we'd love to have you as part of the Dusklight family by subscribing, hitting the bell of alertness, it's just a normal bell, but adding stuff like that is nice, and leave a comment with stories you'd love for my many-legged runners to find. Dedication needs to be rewarded, and we thank more and more of our loyal listeners for joining these premieres each and every time. This time we give thanks to Sean Scally, Colin Squire, Riley Ferranti, Dodges82, Kaya Volk, Jason and Gamma, our terrifying twosome at every premiere, and Ryan Kettles for giving us their valuable time. Want to get a shout out? Be sure to join our premieres or leave a comment below, and I'll do my darndest to find the ones that stand out. Now I hope we can continue this forward growth and spread our spores to the corners of YouTube, infecting the airwaves with our intoxicating presence. And when we hit 500, we got something wonderful planned. And one last time, listeners, close your eyes and breathe with me. Remember, no matter how bad things are, how cruel people can be, and how heavy your shoulders may feel with the weight of the world bearing down on them, Dusklight will always be here to lift the load and provide you with some respite. Drink some water, watch a nature documentary, eat some takeout, and sleep on the cool side of the pillow. Start and end each day with kindness in your heart. You matter, you are loved, and every day is another chance. I'll see you again when the sun sets and dusk enters the station.